Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 263. Now this chapter was really interesting in my opinion because we got a lot of shit happening regarding Kaminari and a little bit about Hawks as well, but most of this chapter really did revolve around Kaminari, and that is a character that initially I didn't really expect to be getting too much on. I mean, obviously I kind of felt like we were going to get something because like a few chapters back we saw Kaminari was very stressed out and really worried about being separated from most of his classmates, Tokoyami being one of the exclusions from that. And, now that we actually see that come to sort of fruition, we see how Kaminari is getting past that boundary or that obstacle, if you will. It's really interesting because Kaminari is a character who a lot of people have been speculating is the traitor. People are thinking that he is somewhat stronger than he appears to be, that he's hiding something. And to an extent, maybe he was hiding something or at least holding back, but I don't think it's because he's a traitor. I think he has been holding back for other reasons, like he's been probably struggling with himself, the sort of psychological stuff that goes on in his head. And we kind of see that a fair bit this chapter, how he's actually kind of hesitating to move because he's so afraid of what's going on and he's really worried about the people behind them, Jiro and everyone else. And let's talk about Jiro a little bit as well later because his relationship with Jiro really had somewhat of development this chapter in a very sort of, not necessarily for the sake of the plot, but just his relationship with Jiro really had a sharp increase. In my opinion, this chapter we saw his emotions kind of gravitate towards her because obviously Midnight asked him to kind of concentrate on the person that he worried about the most or had the strongest feelings towards, and we see how he pictures Jiro in that very moment, which is something that I think a lot of people kind of assumed was going to happen when we saw that. Obviously that he has a thing for Jiro, not necessarily in the sense of him wanting to tap her, but just sort of, his friendship and general relationship with her character. They're really close, and you can see that like Jiro, Kaminari, and Jiro and Koda, these are obviously characters that are really close to Jiro, and Kaminari being sort of the more relevant one out of the two. Let's be honest, like no one really cares about Koda at this point in time because it hasn't really done anything, whereas at least Kaminari's kind of been doing stuff, even if it isn't necessarily thing that has been progressing the plot on a large scale. So it's really cool to see Kaminari being at least the center of attention for a couple of chapters. Like maybe we'll get more next chapter, I don't really know. I mean, we did see that final panel of this chapter, which kind of makes me think we're gonna get a little bit more of Hawks instead of necessarily focusing on Kaminari, though that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. I mean, we could just be going into some more meat of this fight, seeing Kaminari fight this member of the Paranormal Liberation Front, which would be really nice to see, two lightning users going ham against each other, one being an adult which probably has more experience versus Kaminari who isn't really that experienced. He's pretty fucking strong though. He was able to negate his power, which is quite impressive. I mean, we don't really know where the limit of his opponent lies, so he could be much weaker than Kaminari, he could be extremely stronger than Kaminari as well, or they could be around the same level. It's kind of hard to say. It kind of looked like he was relying on some kind of support item, which could be his downfall against Kaminari. You never know. We have seen Kaminari snapped before, which was during the provisional hero license exam, where he obviously kind of made a turn against the meatball guy. So we do know that Kaminari isn't as stupid as he kind of makes us believe he is. He definitely has underlying potential that he doesn't show us all too often, and I think this is gonna be one of his moments where we get to see that in its full glory because he's not really having anyone else that can back him up here. Like Tokoyami is completely out of the question because this is gonna be a really bright fight, and we know that brightness really weakens dark shadow, so we're not gonna be seeing much of Tokoyami helping him out here. It's just not gonna happen. We did also see how the different divisions of the Paranormal Liberation Front was called out to move out to the battlefield. You see Skeptic call out Brown, Black, Karma, and Violet, pretty much all of the teams that we've been hearing about. So I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of major characters show up very soon as well. Like we saw a panel of Dabi, we saw a panel of Toga. We know that Twice isn't really gonna show up unless he makes a move on Hawks and manages to escape or whatever, assuming that's the real Twice, which we don't really know either. It could be a trap as well, for Hawks, because I mean, you don't really know what Horikoshi has planned with someone like Twice, because Twice has been said to be like the biggest threat to the heroes, and I feel like that's going to be shown at some point. I think that is not going to be left in the shadows. I don't really think that makes a lot of sense. I think we're gonna see that happening. I think we're gonna see like Twice go absolutely crazy on the heroes, you know, with his whole sad man's parade. So Hawks being in the position that he is in right now with Twice trapped, assuming it's the real Twice, something's definitely going to be happening there. Then we have Toga, Dabi, and everyone else working under them, you know, Mr. Compress as well, Spinner, eventually Shigaraki, I suppose. So I mean, you're definitely gonna be seeing a lot of major character fights breaking out soon, I think, especially between probably pro heroes and them. Like Toga's probably gonna fight someone who is extremely strong. Same goes for Dabi, and then obviously we have Mr. Compress and Spinner, who aren't really necessarily as strong, I don't think. At least they haven't really been given enough screen time to kind of prove that. So I'm not really sure who they'd be fighting. I mean, probably pro heroes still, just not on the same level as maybe Toga or Dabi, who have been the more prominent underlings of Shigaraki. We've seen most of them. We know exactly what they're capable of pretty much. I mean, Dabi hasn't really been shown too much either, to be honest, but at least we know he has a very powerful quirk and he knows how to use that quirk. So let's talk about the Twice and Hawks situation, because that is really interesting to me. Like, we hadn't really seen much of Hawks and Twice since that one chapter where we saw them getting along, you know, be really good friends. You know, I really thought that Hawks was not necessarily going to turn to evil, but I did think he was going to kind of level with Twice on some level, which apparently, from what we're seeing right now, does not look like it's the case at all. It's still completely in character for Hawks for what he's doing. You know, his job was to infiltrate and do his thing. But I still thought that, you know, he was going to kind of still be on the sort of friend side of Twice, even if they didn't align with their goals. You know, maybe he'd still kind of understand the situation Twice is in, which he still could be, assuming he puts work that much ahead of his personal feelings, which it kind of seems like he is, because what Twice and Hawks were talking about back then, it seemed completely genuine. Like, I don't think Hawks was making that up at all. I think it was completely genuine. However, his work comes first. He does value the lives of citizens, you know, the freedom of the people. And even though, you know, the Liberation Front wants to kind of liberate the use of quirks and all of that, you know, they have their own agenda. At the end of the day, Shigaraki wants to destroy everything. He doesn't really care if you're a civilian, you're a hero. If you don't agree with him, you will die. And I don't think Hawks is interested in following a leader like that. And obviously, Hawks would never want to follow a leader like that. It is not what he's about. He's very much about letting people be free within reason. You know, he still believes in the hero society to a degree. I mean, he wants to change it, obviously. He doesn't want the hero society to be what it is right now, because heroes are under too much pressure in his opinion. He wants people to have more free time, to be able to do what they want to do every once in a while, and at the moment that just can't happen. But what the Liberation Front is doing, maybe it's partially kind of aligning with what Hawks wants to do, but it's not really completely doing so. So what we're seeing here between Hawks and Twice is obviously him choosing work over personal feelings. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like, that is definitely what it looks like, at least. He is not really about to let the hero lose just because he happened to find someone that he can talk to freely about his feelings on the society that they're living in. And that is one of the sort of relationships that I actually really love about Hawks right now. Like, his relationship with Twice, and in fact is one of the reasons why I started to like Twice a little bit more. A lot of people were saying that Twice was an amazing character before that. Personally, I wasn't really feeling it. Like, I wasn't denying that it was a good written character, but I just wasn't feeling him personally, you know. But with that relationship, since I was already a huge fan of Hawks, I kind of leveled a little bit more with Twice as well. So I'm really hoping that Twice eventually doesn't get written out of the story, and especially not Hawks, because I don't want Hawks to die or anything, of course. I want Hawks to be part of the series for a very long time, and I think he will be, because he's still kind of a younger generation. I don't see him dying alongside some of the older folks, like maybe Endeavor and All Might, which people are speculating will probably die. I don't necessarily want any of them to die. I mean, I think All Might will die, but whether Endeavor is gonna die is really hard to say, because someone has has to kind of become this symbol of peace, and he's been working really hard to get there, and so far he's not quite there yet. So I kind of want him to at least get to that point before he dies. It wouldn't really make sense for him to just get halfway and then get killed off in some gruesome manner. You know, I kind of want him to at least fulfill what he wanted to accomplish. So I really hope that happens. And with Hawks, as I said, he's just too young to die in my opinion. He hasn't really had enough to go yet. That said, I still think something huge is gonna happen between Twice and Hawks. Either someone is going to come in and interrupt what Hawks is doing, and that will disrupt everything, or Twice is pretty much just gonna pull some card out that Hawks isn't expecting, and things are just not gonna go as planned, because something that always happens in a war, nothing goes according to plan. Anyway, gonna end the review here. Let me know what you think about chapter 263 of My Hero Academia. Did you like the whole Denki moment that we had, the relationship between him and Jiro, and what are your thoughts on the Hawks and Twice situation? Let me know down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. This has been Chaotic Plus, and remember, Toga is waifu, Mirko is laifu.